I finally broke down and I got a smartphone in 2016. I was doing fine with just the bar phone and the flip phone. I was okay with that. I didn't want to be a part of this whole smartphone thing. And, people made fun of me and laughed at me, because, I don't know if you remember on those old phones how you could text, but it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of patience and it took a lot of time to text. Well, in 2016, I got a smartphone. And I thought, well, man, okay, that'll never happen to me. And what do I mean by that? Well, I was already seeing people around me, including my boyfriend at the time, who had a smartphone. This strange thing where people would be together, but then people would be looking on these devices, these phones. Like people were there, but they weren't there. And like I said, my boyfriend at the time, he had one. I didn't have one. I didn't understand it. Uh, I didn't get it. I didn't want to be a part of it. But he spent most of his time looking at that little rectangle. And I was right there, right next to him in the room, on the couch, watching a movie, you know. But I got the phone, and I learned how to use it. And it opened up a whole new world. And I remember it wasn't long after I got it that my boyfriend at the time, he was mad at me when I was on it because I wasn't giving him attention. Now, this dude was crazy, and that's a whole nother story. But there was two different um, rules. It was okay if he had done it all that time, but now it wasn't okay if I was going to do it. And like I said, I'd seen other people around me um, being there but not being there, being zoned out, on these little rectangles, these computers, phones. And as I learned more about my phone and used it more, and like I said, wasn't in a great relationship, stayed on it. I made videos, I took photos, I eventually got onto some social media platforms to connect to people that way. And it's just snowballed from there. So here we are 10 years later. Well, me anyway, and having gotten a smartphone and gotten into that whole world. And I can say that it's definitely been a distraction for me all these years later. At times, and still at times, it's a good tool, and I still use it. It's a good tool for some things. But it's also a huge distraction. And I find myself not being interested in the things that I used to be interested in, or doing the things that I used to do. Um, Painting, writing, making music. I'm a gardener. That's my job. So at least I do that. I do that to a degree because I have to do that. And I try to do that here at my home for myself. But with all the shit, and maybe this is an excuse, but with all the shit going on right now, all the information coming at us, or that we take in or choose to take in, I find no desire to really do much of anything creative or imaginative. And so then I get in that space and then I'm like, well, no, I don't feel like doing that. So let me just pick up my phone and let me just see what's going on there. Let me just see other people, living their lives and doing their things and making their art, telling their tale, singing their songs. There's this, I can only speak for myself, but I think that I speak for a lot of people when I say this. There's this lack of something. There's this gap. There's this hollowness. There's this something, a numbness that we're trying to feel, that we're trying to fill. And it takes a lot of patience and time to create, to have an imagination, to speak one on one with somebody, listen. Um, it's not immediate, it's not constant. No person in real life can operate like that. But somehow we seem to be fascinated with engaging with that or taking in information on that extreme level of constance, of change, of newness, of dopamine hit. No period of boredom. No real rest, unless we're actually resting, sleeping. If you can get to sleep, if you can stay asleep. But yeah, I'm just thinking about that today. How I never thought that I would be here and be one of those people who just couldn't put it down. Just couldn't be bored long enough without having to be stimulated in some way. And not by my own hands, but by a computer, a phone, a tablet, what have you. Information from other people. Distractions from other people. It's too much. And we're just not wired for that kind of input. And I could go in deeper and deeper and deeper about the input and all that, but that would be a series of shows. But here I am thinking today, man, I did become like that. I did the same thing. I fell right into it. Because it's here. It's always here. There's always another distraction. There's always something else to listen to. There's people on the other side of the screen who maybe know you or don't know you, but they're always there. You can always count on them. Man, we've really done something to ourselves here. I don't have an answer. I'm not going to say that I have some sort of advice or cure or what to do. I mean, I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of people out there with videos much more professional and much better spoke and have, the better cameras and the better microphones and the better delivery. Who can talk about all that? But no, I'm just kind of reeling in that realization that I'm just as guilty as the next person. I scroll too. I go to the phone too. I mean, I think that I used to justify it by getting ideas and being inspired, Pinterest, things like that. But now it's just the noise, the filler. It's always there. It's never not there. Well, unless we don't have a phone or a computer or a tablet. With the internet, then it won't be there. Maybe it's going to have to take something like that, for people like me and the majority of people to start taking better care of ourselves and what we can actually handle as a species. and maybe get back to something more primitive. Primitive seems like a primitive word, but I mean like actually talking to people face to face without a phone in your hand while you're with the person face to face. Maybe reaching out to somebody if you have a question about something instead of just going to the phone. These it seems so contradictory because I can see both sides and I can see how technology is beneficial. But people, like real connection, like real interaction, like looking people in the eye and listening and speaking, that's in our nature. I hope we get back to remembering how to do that. And like I said, I think maybe the only way that could be is if we couldn't do this, what we're doing right now. That we would actually have to talk to our neighbors and talk to our community and talk to strangers and write a letter or send a postcard. I would say call somebody on the phone, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to get us back to ourselves. But I hear from people, and I know for myself that I'm lost in it too. Looking at that little rectangle, just like I am right now with you, recording this video. Hoping to connect, hoping to make sense, contradicting myself. Anyway. The weather is beautiful here where I live right now, and I've spent most of my week outside, and I'm grateful for that. So, if you can get out, you can spend some time outside. At least try to do that. I don't know about the rest, folks. I'm just as guilty as the rest. Take care. Be safe. Have a peaceful day.